All right, let's get right into it. When you hear peer-to-peer, you probably think of, those old file sharing apps from back in the day. But that is not even scratching the surface. What we're going to unpack today is peer-to-peer as more than just a piece of tech. We're talking about a revolutionary idea, an entire architecture that just completely challenges how we think about power, information, and connection on the internet. So here's the game plan. First, we're going to start with the world we all know, the centralized web. Then we'll dive headfirst into the radical idea behind peer-to-peer. After that, we'll see how these networks actually live and breathe, uncover the pretty amazing power that comes from decentralization, and finally, zoom out to look at the philosophy that could, honestly, change everything. To really get this, let's use a simple analogy. The internet you use every single day, it's basically a giant central library. All the books, all the data, it's all in one building. And we all have to go there to check things out. A peer-to-peer network, on the other hand, is totally different. It's more like a massive citywide book club where every single member has copies of the books and shares them directly with each other. See the difference? No central library needed at all. Okay, so let's kick things off in that familiar world, the one we're all swimming in, the centralized client-server web. Now, check out the language here. Hierarchical archetype, asymmetric power. This isn't just tech speak. This is a description of a power structure. Your computer, the client, has to ask for permission, for information, from a huge, powerful server. And that server, it holds all the cards. The information only flows one way, from them, the center, out to you. And this structure, well, it has some pretty serious consequences. It creates these single points of control, these choke points. Whoever owns that server gets to be the gatekeeper. They decide what you see and what you don't. And what happens if that one central server goes down? Poof, the entire service is gone. It might be efficient, but it's also incredibly fragile, and it puts a ton of power into very few hands. So if that's the setup we've got, what's the alternative? This is where it gets interesting. Let's explore a totally different way of seeing the web, the peer-to-peer idea. Whoa, ontological inversion. Sounds super academic, right? But the idea behind it is actually simple, and it's incredibly powerful. P2P isn't just a small change to the old model, it's its complete and total opposite. It takes that client-server pyramid and flips it upside down. Or actually, it's more like it just smashes it flat. And this slide says it all. How many central servers does a true P2P network have? Zero. None, nada. This is the absolute game changer. There is no single point of failure. There is no king on the throne, no single point of control. So what happens is the power gets diffused, spread out across everyone in the network. Every person, every peer, is an equal. The source material has this fantastic term for it, network autopoiesis. It's an idea from biology. It means the network is like a living cell. It builds and maintains itself using its own parts. There's no CEO, no boss. It literally lives and breathes because of what its members do together. Okay, so if there's no big server in the sky calling all the shots, how does anything actually get done? How do these networks, well, live? Let's break down the roles that people, or really their computers, play in this ecosystem. So first up, you've got the peers. They're the basic building blocks. You can also call them nodes. They're the individual computers talking to each other. But inside this group, you've got two really key behaviors. You have seeders. These are the peers who have the whole file, and they're actively sharing it with everyone. They're the givers. And then you have the leechers. They're downloading, but they're not sharing back. They're the takers. And the balance between those two groups, the seeders and the leechers, is everything. It literally determines the health of the entire system. A network with tons of seeders is healthy, it's fast, it's vibrant. Everybody gets what they need, quickly. But a network with too many takers, too many leechers, it gets slow, sluggish, and can actually just fizzle out and die. It's a whole system that's built on what our source calls reciprocal altruism. You gotta give back. So how does this all work under the hood? It all starts with a tiny little file called a torrent. Now, this isn't the actual movie or the song itself. Think of it more like a map. And that map connects you to the swarm, which is the living, breathing community of every single person sharing that one file. Once you're in the swarm, the exchange begins. You download tiny pieces from dozens of people, and at the exact same time, you upload the pieces you already have to others. This give and take, that's the engine. It's the ethical and the functional heart of the whole system. Okay, so we've seen how it works, but why is this so important? This is where we get to the really incredible power that just emerges out of this decentralized design.
This quote from our source material, it just says it all, doesn't it? The single biggest strength, the core virtue you get when you throw out that central point of control, is resilience. Think of it like this. A centralized system is like a hub and spoke wheel. If you break the hub in the middle, the whole thing collapses. But a decentralized network is like a mesh or a spider's web. If you cut one strand of that web, so what? The information just finds another path. The network literally heals itself. One person can leave, 10 people can leave, 100 people can leave, and the network just adapts and keeps on going. It's beyond just being fault-tolerant, it's what you might call anti-fragile.
And this resilience gives birth to some amazing superpowers. You get fault tolerance, like we just talked about. You get anti-censorship, because hey, there's no central choke point to shut things down. And you get this beautiful idea called the end-to-end principle. The idea that the network itself should be simple, and all the smarts, all the intelligence, should live at the edges, with us, the users. It's about empowering the edges, not the core.
And that brings us to our final and maybe most important idea. Because P2P isn't just a clever way to build a network, it's a philosophy. It's a new way of thinking about how we share knowledge and ideas.
Now this is such a critical distinction to understand. The open source movement was absolutely revolutionary. It liberated the creation of knowledge by making the blueprints, the source code, available to everybody. But P2P did something just as profound. It liberated the circulation of that knowledge. It created a way to distribute anything without needing a central publisher, a record label, or any other authority. You can even create this kind of map of meaning for this new world. The nodes on the network, they aren't just computers, they're us. They represent individual minds. The links connecting them, those are more than data packets. They're relationships built on trust. The files being shared are units of knowledge, and the swarm, the whole thing working together, becomes something amazing, a form of collective intelligence. And this leads us to the ultimate point, the total redefinition of power. In the old, centralized world, power is all about your position. It's about being at the top of that pyramid. But in a peer-to-peer world, power is something completely different. It's not about your position in a hierarchy. It's about your connection. Power becomes your networked potential, your ability to contribute to the whole and to draw from it.
So this is where we are. We've seen a movement that liberated how we create knowledge. And we've seen an architecture that liberated how we share it. And that leaves us with one final really big question to chew on. Now that we've freed the way ideas are made and circulated, what's the next great frontier that needs to be liberated?